Welcome to the paranormal and metaphysical world of Twilight Tonight. Host DD Moonflyer grew up with very open-minded parents who had many experiences with UFOs and the paranormal. Because of her mom's insistence on exposing her to spiritual classes, meditation, and teachings of Edgar Cayce, DD had a fascination and deep interest in the paranormal. Her own paranormal experiences have led her to seek out and interview other fascinating, knowledgeable people for better understanding of this phenomenon. Now, your host of Twilight Tonight, DD Moonflyer.
Good evening, everybody, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Tonight, I have one of my favorite, if not the most favorite, paranormal investigator in Fort Wayne, Jason Snyder. How are you, Jason? Come on out.
Hey, how we doing, DD?
I'm great. Long time no see. How are you?
Right. I mean, I'm your favorite investigator, but it seems like we just go very long clips without talking and seeing each other.
I know, it's so weird.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know that I'm busy, and I obviously know that you're busy too. I also know too that you don't spend as much time like on Facebook and things like that as I do. So, that's I tell people all the time, look, if you're gonna catch me on Facebook.
I know, that's how I get you.
I mean, that's usually it, because I mean, that's my main mode of social networking as of right now. Working on a TikTok channel behind the scenes. Yeah, we're going to get there. Probably get the Instagram up and going, and I'm looking into hiring somebody just to manage those things for me, actually.
I just might have the person for you soon.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to talk about that then.
Yeah. So Jason, last time I talked to you, you were like doing some really cool stuff on a remote side of Ohio. I know you can't mention the person's name. Have you been back there though?
I have not. Been trying to get back there, it's been a conflict of scheduling, obviously. I mean, I get so busy and get so self-involved in everything that I have going on in my own life, and sometimes there are periods of time in my life where it just seems like it's a lifetime away to make something happen. And, so at some point I'm just like, you know what, we'll get there, we'll get back there as soon as possible. I'm not going to, try to kill myself to make it happen or anything like that. So yeah, take everything in stride, I mean, that's pretty much it.
One thing I wanted to ask you I wanted to ask a lot of paranormal people this, especially the investigators. It's a life balance thing. Like, how do you balance such a busy life? And then you work a lot with a Hannah House in Indianapolis, which is an amazing historical building.
Yeah. So somebody asked me,
like, do investigations there. You like take care of the place. You like have people, you do fundraisers, you do all kinds of plays for this.
Yeah. So, and you know what, I'm just, I'm only directly involved with the place because it is a beautiful mansion. It's a staple of Indianapolis. There's actually a caretaker who's been taking care of the place for many, many years in place of the family. And, unfortunately, that is such a huge piece of land that you literally can't take care of that by yourself, and to have it always taken care of year after year, week after week, it would cost a fortune. Because what a lot of people don't understand is that the Hannah property goes all the way from where Madison Avenue is, all the way out front where the front gates are, but it also goes all the way down National Avenue. There's 2 houses that are owned by that, past that, plus a huge field, and they own all the property up to the railroad track. So all of that stuff is all under the responsibility of the people who take care of the Hannah House. That being said, there's a lot of dead trees on that property, big ones, big hardwood trees, oaks and things like that. And so each year, over the course of a winter time, from the time that we have like the paranormal meet and greet down there, the Paranormal Day celebration, till about now, see, last year there had been 6 trees that had fallen down. It took out a couple outbuildings. It took out a section of fencing. A brick pillar post that we had to pay to get that fixed. And then some crazy person was out driving drunk and went through another part of the yard and destroyed another part of the fence. And of course, they didn't stick around to leave their insurance information. So, that falls on, getting somebody there who can fix the fence and repair all that stuff. It's really, really not cheap. And between all of the property taxes and all the utilities and everything that it costs to go into that place, that place usually breaks even every year. And that's even with all the voluntary efforts that we have. So, we have like 5 to 7 volunteer cleanups, starting like right around April all the way up until August. And, we cut trees, we're splitting wood, we're stacking wood, selling wood, weeding the flower beds and cutting everything, getting the yard mowed and getting everything ready for the season. It literally takes a half an army to do it. I think last year we had 54 volunteers over 6 weeks of cleanups. So pretty good. You get a lot of people to come out for the day. We supply a lot of the tools, and everybody works their butts off and gets really, really dirty. We have a great time. We feed everybody, and then we go home for the day feeling defeated. That's just the way it goes. And you hope every single year as it goes on that we continue to have the Hannah House there to be able to host events and just continue to make more memories with. It's a great place.
So let the audience know a little bit of history about the haunting and everything about the Hannah House. Why is it so significant?
Well, it was built by Alexander Hannah, who was an abolitionist. I believe it was built in 1858. And in its time, it's a massive mansion now, but in its time, you could just imagine how big that thing was and how prestigious it was back when it was built. And it was said to be a stop on the Underground Railroad. And so, not only do you have a history of 150 years of history of people living there, but there's also it's not recorded anywhere, obviously. We don't really know for sure if there's any truth behind it, but it is rumored that there was a bunch of stowaways in the basement, slaves, and somebody had accidentally knocked over an oil lantern, and it caught fire in the basement. And pretty much everybody died down there, according to the story. And wasn't like you can just take a bunch of people topside and bury them in your yard without people noticing. So it was said that they were buried in the basement. Okay, wow. beneath the floor of the basement. There's never been anything done to substantiate those claims. But the Hannah House has only been in the hands of 3 different families from the time that it was built until now. And, it's still had a lot of history. A lot of people have lived there. It was rented for many, many years. It was a bed and breakfast. It was an antique store. It was so many different things over its history. And there have been some deaths and some things like that. You can think about the old days when people died. Often at times they didn't die at the hospital, especially back in the late 1800s, mid 1800s, early 1900s. You died at home. So there is some history of some people that have deceased in the home. The Hannah House is one of those places where it's a very, very calm place. There's times when you least hours investigating or looking for it, and it might be a pretty lame night there. It's a tough nut to crack, but the good thing about it is that all the spirit activity that's in there is all good. It's all positive. We've never had any really bad experiences in there. EVPs, disembodied voices in the middle of the day, things moving from time to time. You know, but for many of us, I mean, we don't hang there because, all times. But to me, if I stay in Indianapolis, that's where I stay. That's that's where I go. I go to the Hannah house to stay the night rather than spend money in a hotel. And, whether there's 4 people there or whether you're there by yourself, you feel very comfortable, very at home there. So, I mean, to me, it's just, I love having the opportunity to be there, when I want to be there and when we want to do stuff. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be able to host a big event there every year as well.
Yeah. Are you having an event this year?
The jury's still out on that right now, to be honest with you. We have spoken to the caretaker and the powers that be, the family and everything. And, we have to go through some channels to make sure things are going to fall into place for the year. And so we're about a month behind where we normally are for that event, but we're not really worried about it. But I can promise everybody that as soon as it's decided in the next week or two, everybody will know about it. I can tell you that right now. I think last year we had 89 vendors there. Wow. And we found that was about as many as we can fit on that huge property. And I used to think that it was unlimited space because I never thought we would have that many vendors. But after, 14 years of that event there, it's just grown into something really special. And, you can come and you can get beer and wine, you can get food, you can get desserts, even breakfast cooked if you get there early enough. And it's a great event. It's free for everybody, and it usually draws like anywhere from 2,000. I think last year the final count was 2,050 people in an 8-hour period. So that was really good. It was a great turnout.
Jason, I'm really curious about this, and I don't know if I've ever asked you this. Why have you decided to invest the paranormal? What caused you to take this path?
I think with a lot of people, it starts with a personal experience. My family, half of my dad's side of the family is German. My mom's side of the family is Italian. They're Catholics. They were Catholic. A very, very spiritual, religious family. And, all of my family had paranormal experiences. And even as a child talking about it, and when we talked about it at the dinner table, when I was even 4, 5, 6 years old, it was just something that we talked about. My father was the skeptic, of course. My mom and all my aunts and uncles and even my godparents had all of these phenomenal things happen to them. And for me in 1985, 1982, I'm sorry, my grandmother had passed away from brain cancer, and she spent her final days basically, her final months of her life at our house. It was my dad's mother, and she did die at the hospital. But right after she died, things started happening in our house. And it was very, very evident. It was freaking my dad out. My mom was completely intrigued by it, and they were trying to hide it from us. But, myself and my brother, who's 5 years older than me, even he was experiencing some of this stuff, so it took, one time for me to walk out real late at night out of my room and to see an apparition of her in my living room. And that was it. I mean, it scared me. I do remember like it was yesterday. But when you're only 5 years old, that has an impact. When it's already a thought in your mind, there's an impact, and there was a lot of bickering between mom and dad because mom made a pretty big deal out of it. Dad didn't want to talk about it. And I think dad was just scared to think about it, to be honest with you. I mean, there was a point in time where in the middle of the day, I was taking a nap in my room, and the window in my bedroom started to go up and down and started to slam. And it did this over and over again. And my father he thought that I was in there messing around. I was sound asleep when it started to happen. So when he walked in, he initially saw me and thought that I was messing with the window. But then it had done it twice right in front of him. And he literally took these ginormous, they call them 16 penny nails. They're huge framing nails. And he pounded those into the top corners of the windows, into the window jambs. He nailed the window shut, and then continued to deny that there was anything, paranormal going on in the house, even after he nailed the window shut. So it's a comical time to think about and to look back on, but it didn't last long. She passed on probably, I'd say within 2 years after, we were experiencing stuff. Just as fast as we started to experience it, she was gone, and I think a part of it is my father, after a while, started to believe there was things that were happening right in front of him and my mom that was kind of undeniable. And I think that, my mom would tell you to this day that she always thought that it was because my grandmother, was attached to me, couldn't let me go. But honestly, I think it was she wanted my dad to know that things were going to be okay. And I think that once he acknowledged that, I think she just moved on, because it happened pretty abruptly.
Yeah.
So from there, it just, we had books around the house that were based on hauntings, like the Haunted Heartland series, the little paperback books.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a story in there from Elmore, Ohio, which is about 40 minutes from Sandusky, where I was born and raised. And so the very, very first year that I had my driver's license, my next door neighbor, TJ, who is actually a podcast partner of mine and still involved in the paranormal, him and I went out to Elmore, Ohio, the first night of spring. We had to be on the bridge at 12 a.m. on the first night of spring. And you had to blink your lights 3 times and honk your horn 3 times, and you're going to see the apparition of this headless motorcyclist come over this bridge, right? And so what we ended up doing was I got to the foot of the bridge and honked my horn 3 times and blinked my lights 3 times. And then I got pulled over by the sheriff for disturbing the peace because it was midnight. So 16 years old was my very first ghost hunt, and it didn't turn out so well.
Did you have to go home after that, Jason?
Yeah, I did. And that was just the thing is he was on the other side of the bridge on a dirt or a gravel parking lot at the foot of the bridge on the other side. We couldn't see him. And, that book, the Haunted Heartland series, I think it came out in like 78 or something like that. And he chuckled at me and was like, "You kids have been doing this for years. You think I'm stupid? I've read the book too. I was down here waiting for somebody to come along and do this." So, yeah. So, I got a $75 ticket and, I had to go home. So, at that point you start to really think about things, folklore wise. And that's what a lot of people don't, understand. That a lot of the stuff that you read in books is exactly folklore. There's a headless motorcyclist or a lady in white or a ghost bus of children that will mysteriously push your car over top of the railroad tracks. And in every small town in America, those little folklore tales are everywhere. I tell people, it was really, really fun to go out and do, like we did this whole folklore series where we just videoed all of this folklore stuff that we investigated and told the background of it and all of this. But really, it was a lot of fun to be together to do it, but it was a huge waste of time. We didn't find anything, never, but it was just neat. It was just fun to do.
Right. Has any of your research had an impact on you where you were actually frightened?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, not often, but there's been a couple times. There's been some oh shit moments, and that's putting it lightly. And that's actually, to be honest with you, that's what keeps me involved into the paranormal research. It doesn't have anything to do with the attention, the networking, the camaraderie. I mean, that all comes with it. Those are all perks of what we do. But it's been not even what we've captured on audio and video, but the things that we've experienced physically in those places that has just kept me intrigued. Because, you would think that when I got into this back in 2004, 2005, that, it was, I'm going to go on this on this voyage, this mission to seek these things out, and I want all these answers. I want to be able to quantifiably explain the paranormal so that all the skeptics will understand. And really what you find out that once you get out there is everybody thinks differently about the paranormal, and everybody's got a different approach to it, and everybody's got a different thought process on it. And skeptics, if they're going to be skeptics, they'll blame everything and anything before they accept the truth. And I just realized that it really wasn't all of that. It was more personal to me after a while. So yeah, I mean, being touched, having things blatantly in my face. I'll tell you a story real quick, a short one. We were at Franklin Elementary School. Now, if you're familiar with that, it's now been torn down. It's a park. It's over on Franklin Avenue, over in off the Wells Street corridor area there. It's a park now, but they've left the archways, the doorways that are there. We were actually contacted and got in there because the head of Vice Narcotics had contacted us, because basically what it was is it was a Navy training facility, became a cop training facility, and then it was just police offices there. And so all the way around the clock, 24 hours a day, there were police officers that were in and out. They go out on, their shift, and at the end of their shift, they come back to their offices that were there and, write up whatever paperwork they had to do for the night, and then they go home. And this particular guy had an autistic son. This officer had an autistic son who had a really, really crazy experience there. And, they were used to being there. They were there almost every single day. It was this thing to finish up his paperwork while his son would be down at the gym shooting baskets. After he was done, he would take a shower, and then he'd get dressed. And by the time he was done with the shower and dressed and everything, it was time to go home. That was kind of their thing. And if something happened to this kid, out of all the times they'd been there, he was extremely upset about something that had happened. And so the officer, the detective, had asked us, he says, hey, there's been other teams in here before, but I'd love to get you guys in here to kind of see what you guys think about things. And so not only did I bring my team, but I also had some friends who were in a paranormal team out in Columbia City. And then I had a team from Kalamazoo, Michigan, who are very good friends of mine, good, solid investigators. They had come down too. And it was a school. It was a really big place. We had to cover this place. We had one night to do this. So we wanted to get good coverage and get a good investigation done on it. And lo and behold, when we got there and met with the officer, he had an entire file on his computer of eyewitness reports and things from other officers, including psychiatrists and stuff that worked for the city as well, that had paranormal experiences in there that they can't explain. And there's nothing in the history that they were able to solidify as far as a reasoning for it. But, schools, you think about these schools and how much energy and how many people have, been through the history of these old buildings. So you'd almost think that a lot of these places, you stay around these old buildings long enough, you're gonna hear or see things. And he had a whole catalog of it before we even got there. So I was quite impressed because he had EVPs. He had actual notations where he typed things out. These were statements that were given from other officers and things like that. And it was a great night. It was a pretty active night. But at one point in time, we were standing in the shower of the men's room, which seemed to be the topic of a lot of the claims that were there. And at one point in time, there was, I think, 5 people in the shower area with me. And then there was probably another 5 to 8 people outside of the shower in this little locker area. They can hear everything that was going on inside the shower where we were conducting an EVP session. And at one point in time, yes, there was a very, very breathy noise in my face. Like I almost felt like I should have felt the breath. It almost sounded like it was a hard whisper or maybe a very, very loud scream from very far away, right in my face. And like that was the very first time that I'd been jarred to the point to where, I literally jumped back. It startled me to the point to where I jumped and hit the wall behind me. I dropped all my equipment, all my gear all over the floor. I mean, the shower was wet. It was, but here's the thing. I wasn't the only one who heard it. So not only were we hearing footsteps inside of this shower, and it's not a small shower either. I mean, we're talking, 15, 20 different shower heads in this. So it's a good size shower, and it was wet, drippy water, but we were hearing footprints and footsteps in there while we were in there, which is the reason why we started to investigate this area. And, it was something that was really, really alarming and in my face, undeniably. And it was witnessed by a lot of people. We couldn't see nothing. Some people said they felt it. Some people said that they heard it. But it scared the crap out of me. I mean, it startled the bejesus out of me. And that doesn't happen really often. I'm usually prepared for things, but that was one of those times where I was just like, good freaking grief. A lot of people are like, whoa, because the people who are around me aren't used to me being startled, and they saw it. And I was like, Jesus, I got to walk away from this and go take a break. And that's exactly what I did, go take a breather. And, I came back in and everybody was like, yeah, we don't know what it was, but we all experienced that collectively. Both people that were in the shower right next to me, as well as the people who were outside of the shower, which is in this little locker area, which is separated by nothing but a doorway. So it's pretty neat.
What do you know what the voice said, Jason, by any chance?
No, I think he was just screaming at me.
Oh God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
Well, yeah, because we were thinking that we were talking to the ghost of an older gentleman. In the schools, you're always dealing with a creepy old janitor, somebody like that. That's kind of where our mindset was, but we didn't know one way or the other. We just know that there had been experiences with an older man in there. And, so we started poking and prodding, and I started, doing a little bit of the more aggressive questioning about, hanging out in a shower in the men's shower room and scaring the crap out of innocent people and little kids and things like that. And it just built up. And then all of a sudden there was this huge release, and that's what it was. It was just really, really crazy. And there's been other times when we've been in theaters and stuff, we'd all seen black masses and shadows and things move where 7, 8, 9 of us all at the same time were pointing over at the same exact spot instantaneously. Oh, who saw that? So, something blocked that entire light out over there. So sometimes when you get into these places, your mind is solid and you don't feel anything or experience anything. And there's other times where you're really, really in tune with the place. And when you least expect it and you get comfortable, something happens. And, that's what propels me to continue to move forward. Because I'm like, anybody get that on audio? Well, we got it on audio. We didn't get it on video. There was nothing to see, and that's probably one of 4 maybe really, really exciting moments that's happened out of all the years that I've been investigating. The other ones have just too big. It would take us the entire time to put the background in all of that, to discuss those other ones. But excuse me. But connections, deaths and hauntings that have connections to multiple places within the city, that's happened to us. And that's very, very intriguing when it happens, especially when it's got like a 45-year history of just all this negative stuff. And then you go in to investigate it and you just feel energized from the moment that you walk in there. Great. Like you just feel like putrid. It's just like, ugh, those are the kind of investigations. I know I talk like they're disgusting to feel, but we are actually, people like me get excited about those, because I don't necessarily say that I have a gift. I don't walk into any God-given place and be able to tell you how it feels. If I have a feeling, most of the time I don't. I really don't, but those couple times that there's a really good story behind them.
Right. That's really cool. We're going to take a short break and then to hear something from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back with Jason Snyder. Hey, we're back with Jason. Hey, Jason, you've got some upcoming events in Fort Wayne, Indiana. A lot of people don't know how much history is in Fort Wayne, Indiana. There is tons that I'm finding out each and every day.
Yeah, so there's Fort Wayne, as you know, it is a huge conservative Republican city. We're a huge conservative Republican state, and because of that, it's taken a little time for the city of Fort Wayne to kind of come around a little bit on some things. As you know, we've been nagging at them for a long time to open their minds and share the history and do all these wonderful things paranormally that, you know, we talk about things like the zombie walk. I can't tell you how long that was in the planning process before it actually started to happen. I'm finally proud to be part of a city that actually shuts down for a day and opens the downtown area up for all the kids to do the zombie walk and all that stuff. It's fantastic. But Fort Wayne does have a huge city and a huge history behind it. Lots of different things. Most recently, the Bell Mansion. Have you been there yet?
Oh, yeah, many times. Yep.
Okay. I was going to say, we haven't ran into each other at the Bell Mansion, I don't believe.
Not yet. Nope. No.
Okay.
When they first opened, me and Rod from the Two Crazy Crystal Guys, we did some meditations there.
Right.
And we went around doing some of the mediumship stuff for them.
Yeah, because they were actually vendors there, correct? At a couple of the events, or at least one of them?
Yes, we did. And my brother reads cards there sometimes. It's a beautiful building. And Andy and her guy, they're very sweet.
Yeah, Angie and Nick, very good people.
Yeah, they're very sweet people. I enjoy when I get to go there. But yeah, I love it there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a really cool place located right downtown on Wayne Street. It's a 130-year-old mansion. I believe 94 of those years it was a funeral home.
Yes.
And so you can imagine that at one point in time for many, many years, that was pretty much a lot of the go-to place for people to be processed before burial and things of that nature. So just imagine I don't know, 30, 40, 50,000 people, bodies that have been processed there. And it's just a huge history. And to find a building like that's that old, that is that beautiful on the inside and that original still it's breathtaking. It really is. It's unimaginable until you see it in person.
And not only that, the history of the people that built it, Claire.
Yeah.
You know, she's still there in spirit, and the guy on the steps.
Yeah.
That was really interesting. Not to mention the basement alone, when you find out more and more about Mr. Bell. Yeah. It's like one of those things like, he was kind of a creep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I think, you know, that's one of the cool things. There's still an evolution of study going on there. I mean, so Angie and Nick have put a very, very good group or a very good team of individuals around them to help them with the historic tours, or they call the ghost tours or flashlight tours or whatever you want to call them. I think that even though, you know, when you come into this, you have so much history, but I think that they're still learning so much too. And there's so many other things coming to light because, you know, there are older people that are coming and telling them, you know, their experiences there and with the you know, the place as a funeral home and things that were passed down from their grandparents. And, you know, so I think that Angie and Nick are, you know, it's still an evolution of learning about all of the happenings and the things about the original owners, the people who built it, and subsequently the funeral home for the 94 years after that. And which is really cool because I noticed that from the time I went to the very first historic tour until the time I went to the second historic tour, which was about 3 months later, it was actually a little bit more fact-wise, you know, so I don't know if it was just because of the person that was given a tour or if they're still finding things out, which I'm sure it's probably both.
Yeah.
But we've been talking about working together in conjunction with each other for a while. I wanted to get there, but you know, unfortunately, because of how busy I am, you know, I told them, I said, hey, look, we'll do something. They wanted to do the murder mystery dinners there, which they're a freaking hit. But you know, we talked about it, we discussed it. I said, this is kind of what I do. This is how we do it. And I don't think that we quite came up with an agreement to do one of those events. I was actually going to take it out of retirement to host one here. I don't do the murder mystery dinners anymore because they're so difficult. There's so much work involved in it.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
you do all the cooking for those too, right?
yeah, so all of them so far, I did all the cooking for everything always from scratch, whether it's like a taco bar, an Italian themed dinner, something like that. You know, it's there's a lot of work that goes into it, but there's a lot of work that goes up to it because when you're not just watching a theatrical performance while you're eating dinner, when you buy a ticket, you actually become a character in that murder mystery. And I write the murder mysteries myself. So you know, it started off where I did one where I actually bought one of these templates off of the internet and used that. And I utterly hated it. It was so vanilla. And I was like, it's really, really cool, but it's really, really vanilla. And this is kind of an adult event. And I wanted to make, you know, more adult friendly. So, you know, so I wrote up a couple more, made them just a little bit more gruesome, threw some language in there, maybe some scandals. Somebody was sleeping with somebody, and you know, all the good stuff that we love about TV today. And so, you know, I mean, we do this. It would be a 3.5 hour ordeal where you have dinner, several different courses, and there'd be several rounds of the murder mystery, and then you would come to the conclusion, and then somebody would win. And then you would take a break and you'd go into a full-blown paranormal investigation because these things were always hosted in a haunted place.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tickets were $100 a piece, but you know, you're talking 8 hours of lots of paranormal fun. And there's lots of freebies. I give out freebies and these bonus treasure boxes that have like signed books, autographed stuff, ghost hunting equipment, you know, t-shirts, apparel, things like that, fun stuff. Lotto tickets sometimes, done lotto tickets before. But it just didn't work out. So I did get with them. I do have an event coming up on April 22nd there. I'm bringing in Santiago Cerilla, who's most known for his roles on The Walking Dead. He played Julio in season 4 of The Walking Dead. And of course, he was on the TV show Nashville. I don't know if anybody's seen Nashville or not. I think they took it off. He's been in several different movies. He's of course, he's an author. He's got his own, I guess you want to say kind of like an autobiography about dealing with being a veteran and dealing with stress and PTSD and the everyday struggle of mental health. So he started this thing called the Hi-Ya Nation, which is it's what it's all about. It's about bringing mental health to the forefront and, you know, letting people know that they're not out there struggling by themselves and that nobody's above it. Everybody deals with it a lot of times. And, you know, you got to speak up, you know, and reach out and get help. And, you know, so Santiago wrote a book about that called A Veteran's Homecoming. It's about him coming out of the military and what he deals with. And he talks about when he grew up and, you know, he was bullied just like everybody else and deals with the everyday things that we deal with. And then he's got I think the third installment of Zombified Hunter coming out here in a couple months. So a really cool fiction book about zombies that he's doing. And so Santiago's always doing commercials and always staying busy, doing his thing, supporting the Hi-Ya Nation. He's a high energy guy, but he's very, very cool cat. And then of course the rock and roll ghost hunter, Keith Age. You know, most people who know me know that, you know, 90% of the time, if I'm doing an event or he's doing an event, one of us are part of the other one. So a lot of people don't know that Keith Age is one of the guys who put Waverly Hills on the map.
Yeah,
you know, true. When it was sitting up there with 5 feet of garbage in the hallways, and it was nothing more than a hangout where, you know, people were, you know, camping out in there and doing drugs, and it was just full of homelessness and everything else. You know, it was the Louisville Ghost Hunter Society that went in there and started to investigate that place. It's a seriously haunted location, and work to, you know, help get that place cleaned up and get it, work it into its humble beginnings of what it is now. Of course, if anybody who is into the paranormal, if you're into the paranormal and you don't know who the Booth brothers are, you're not really into the paranormal. Okay, go check out all the Booth brothers documentaries. You know, Keith Age is kind of like their resident ghost hunter for all those documentaries. If you haven't seen them on Sci-Fi, you can stream them. You can buy copies of them all over the place. And Keith is just, there's a lot of things. I mean, people have called him a pioneer. I mean, he was doing laser grids before you can buy them at Radio Shack. You know, he was doing a lot of things that you just, real white noise generators and using metronomes and timing and things like that during different investigations for different results and stuff like that. I mean, he's a true, real deal old soul musician who he's been doing it since 1996. You know, so I mean, he's brought a lot into and contributed a lot into today's techniques. So he's just a great guy.
That event sounds like 3 guys that have a lot of energy. You guys are going to be like, boing, 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 all over the place.
Right. Well, yeah, Keith is kind of like the resident old dude. You put him in a car, he's out like a baby. So, but when he gets there, he'll deliver with all of his charm. Keith is, he's a great guy. He always travels with his wife, Robin, who's an amazing, amazing, amazing person. She's one of my favorites. So what we're going to do is I asked the Bell Mansion to go ahead and do their historical tours on the day that we're hosting the event. And so you can literally come down and meet Keith Age in Santiago for free from 2 p.m. until 6 p.m. Come down, get a picture, buy some merchandise, hang out, whatever. The Bell Mansion's going to be giving their tours at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. They're about 2-hour tours. And then when they're done with that, there's a ghost hunt going on. And I'm going to lead a group. Santiago's going to lead a group. Keith is going to lead a group. And everybody's going to get an opportunity to investigate with all of us. And that begins at 8 and goes until about 2 a.m. So, and we went over our allotted amount for tickets. So we upped it a little bit because there's still pretty hardcore interest in people who want to be there.
Sure, I bet.
We're not going to oversell it though. We're not. We're going to keep it the number fairly low. There aren't very many tickets left at all. We're going to keep the amount of people fairly low because what we want is the experience for everybody. We want everybody to have that genuine experience there. We're not just trying to pull 1 million people in through the door and make a bunch of money off of people. That's not what it's all about, you know. So I'm looking forward to working with Angie and Nick down at the Bell Mansion. You know, it's 3 days away from Santiago Cirilla's birthday, so there may be something special we got planned. And
they're good people, so
yeah,
you will have a good time. They really are good peeps.
I mean, I've sat down, I've talked to them. I've been by there for events, I think maybe 6 times now, and they were gracious enough to allow me in there one night after hours to kind of poke around on my own. No questions asked. Good people. And I look forward to doing this event. I look forward to doing more with them. I'm just really happy that we have a place like that here in town and the community actually shows up for it.
Yeah.
They have these 40 vendor extravaganzas is what they call them, and the food truck that's out there. I mean, the community really shows up, not only for, just to browse the vendors, but the groups and groups and groups and groups of people that come in and go through all these tours are just, and I'm astounded by how much community support they're getting. Because usually you'd sit there with the door open all day and you're lucky to get a couple of stragglers in who are non-paranormal people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But a lot of families, I've seen a lot of families come in that just want to walk through. They want to get the historical tour. I think it's amazing. I'm happy for them genuinely. And I hope it continues to go good for them. They're good people.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building, gorgeous. And I don't know, last time I was there, they talked about there might have been tunnels. I guess there were tunnels underneath the city. I didn't even know about, Jason.
I don't know much about it either, but it doesn't surprise me because, um, I mean, Indy's full of them too, you know?
Yeah, and it goes to like the Masons buildings and stuff, and it's just really interesting. Like when we were in the basement and they mentioned that, I was like, really, the city had tunnels underneath? I didn't know that. There's a lot of
Well, I mean, in any time that you have any type of mystique in the city, it's always going to be, linked in with the Masons.
Oh yeah, they're kind of.
I'm a Mason myself. I'm a Mason, and yeah, I'm a Mason myself. So I don't know about those stories that they're talking about from those tunnels. Like maybe it's something that's new, maybe it's something I completely missed. But I know that I'd love to hear more about it though.
Me too.
You know, because the Scottish Rite wasn't that far away from there, but the original Scottish Rite building was right next to where the Masonic Temple is right now, on Washington and Clinton there. And where the parking lot of the Masonic Temple is used to be the old Scottish Rite, and that was torn down many, many years ago. Yeah, I mean, whether or not there's tunnels on it, I can tell you now that when I was with my old paranormal team, 4 of us were Masons, and our actual meeting place for our paranormal team was that big ass temple downtown.
That's interesting.
Every month we met down there and had a team meeting. And we investigated that entire building hundreds of times. I mean, I know that place like the back of my hand. It's a fabulous building. I mean, that place is just beautiful. So amazing.
That building.
And you walk down the hallway and you see all of the pictures of all the past masters that were all there. And they're all the same people like that all the Fort Wayne streets are named after. You know, I mean, these are very, very powerful people, founding people of Fort Wayne that were worshipful masters. And, you know, the Order of the Eastern Star, which is the female, the female branch of the Masons is in there too. For all those who think that it's an all male thing, it's not. But the Masonic Temple is a beautiful place. So beautiful.
That's so funny. My grandpa was a Mason.
Was he?
Yeah,
was he a Shriner too?
I only saw him once a year when I was little.
Who'd you say it was?
It was my grandfather.
What was his name?
Ron. Let's see.
What was the last name?
I don't even know. My grandpa's name is Maynard.
Maynard.
He's from Niagara Falls.
Wow.
The dam in Niagara Falls.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I think it was.
Holy
Ron.
Crap.
Yeah, and I have his Mason's ring.
Wow.
I inherited his ring.
You know, I talk to a lot of people.
Raymond Maynard.
That's a good, strong name too. It really is. I talk to a lot of people who are like, you know, they talk smack about the Masons because you don't know what. Here's the thing. This is the reason why I got into it, because I watched all those creepy documentaries about how the Masons were this cryptic, you know, society and this crazy brotherhood that had all this mystique about it. So when an application found its way into my hand, I jumped on the opportunity because I'm like, I want to know. What better way to know than to be one, right? So I was like, as long as I come out with all my fingers and all my toes, and I don't, you know, there's nothing that I don't have to do anything questionable, we're good. So
it adds to your mystique now, Jason. You're a Mason and a paranormal investigator. What are you?
And a Knights Templar. I'm actually a knighted Knights Templar. I'm actually a Sir Jason Snyder, by the way. So
what are you hiding, Jason?
You'll never know.
My ways.
Trust me, I wish my life was really that exciting. It's really not. It was like, oh, what's your life like? I'm like, oddly regular. Trust me, it's just
it's not what it looks like.
It's not what it looks like. I'm really behind it all. I'm just a dad. And you know, I own a couple local businesses. I stay busy and I sleep really, really good at night. That's all I got for you.
I'd say those are very important things. I'd say parent is very important, and it's never dull.
Oh God, no, it's never dull. Not when you're going on 46 and you have a 7-year-old daughter.
That acts like Jason.
Oh my gosh, she's worse than me, Dee. I swear, she's so bad. She's so bad. I love her to death. She's my little girl, but she's so crazy. I worry about her so much. But and I have her full time, so I have nobody to blame but myself. But no, I'm blessed. Both of my kids are great kids. I absolutely love being a parent. My kids are wonderful. And as I was saying earlier before the show started, my son Wyatt, who's now 17, will be 18 in July.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a licensed USA boxer, and he's got a fight tomorrow. So we're getting him,
Amazing.
mentally prepped and warmed up, and he's on this strict diet right now. He's got to drink so much water. He's got to do so many reps of this, that, and the other, and he's got to spend time and stay focused and think about it's a whole process. It really is.
Wow.
So it's a great thing. And then, like I said before, I know we talked about the last time. I think this is like the fourth time I've been on your podcast now.
Yeah.
That I was going to undertake an endeavor where I was going to, I was looking into doing some sort of a video stream of stories throughout the U.S.
Yes.
The strange, the creepy, the macabre stuff. That is actually, it's gone a little bit more further than it did when we talked last, but not much.
Oh, this is cool.
But it's in a very, very heavy discovery stage. So part of it is that we have to find these wonderful stories that we think are going to interest people. And we're not trying to bring light to all the stories that you've heard 100 times over. We're trying to find fresh stuff that you only hear when you walk into a small town and you get around all the weirdos that have been there for 60, 70 years, and they tell you crazy stuff. So part of it is that you don't want to offend and you don't want to hurt nobody. And you certainly don't want to bring mayhem on a small town because, you reported this, which was probably a misfortune for another family at some point in time.
Yeah.
There's an author who has been documenting these visits with these people. They're all inbred people down in Virginia, I think it is. I don't know if you've seen them or not. It raised a bunch of money for these. They barely talk. One of them barks and grunts. They're all very, very special needs because they're all brothers and sisters and sons and daughters of brothers and sisters.
Wow.
And that's not what I want to do. While I can sit there and watch that and go, it's pretty unfortunate, it's pretty creepy. None of those people has to be raised or born that way, so I have to make sure that I draw a line. I want to keep things on the real, but I don't want people to think that I'm really doing this to gain likes or attention off of social media at the disdain or the unfortunate events of somebody else's life. So drawing that fine line is very, very difficult.
Yes,
So once we get those stories and we get the discoveries, like all of the information dug up on those, we start to film those, we're likely going to catalog and archive a bunch of them. So we don't feel the pressure or the need to be out on the road traveling to keep up on content, because it will require travel. It will require money, resources, things like that. When people say it all the time, I just kind of nonchalantly do it at my pace. Well, when you start to, you get into, major followings and things like that, you start getting barked at by your fan base, and they want more. They want more of it. And it's really hard to not fall into feeling the need to feed those people.
Right.
And
yes.
Yeah. And I don't want to put myself or my life into that. I'd much rather spend a year doing these things and then
Do it right.
Do it right, and then be able to slow down and still continue that line of that work of those videos and continue to bring that content. But I don't want to feel like if I don't do 12 or 14 hours of studying and drive this 300 miles and go and interview all these people next week, there isn't going to be something on there, and my followers are going to be mad. I don't want to do all that,
Right.
So I'm trying to be, as smart as I can about somebody who's got a really, really crazy, expensive and time consuming hobby who doesn't have any time in his life for a crazy, expensive, time consuming hobby.
Oh, I understand.
That's what I said.
You want the stories to be compelling, and like you said, you don't want to hurt a town. You just want to discover something that will mean something.
And who knows? Raise some awareness. Maybe get some help. I know that this author guy who, who showcased this inbred family and all of that. I think that in some of the past with what he's done is brought some good fortune by, I mean, they raised a bunch of money for this family, and they're literally living in the equivalent to giant chicken shacks. These houses were terrible. Their vehicles were terrible. The hygiene wise, there's no clothes. So I think he actually spearheaded an attempt to raise money for them. It actually did too, in the process. But it's always great if you can do good for somebody. But he's been almost shot a few times going out there to see that family because he's an outsider. And they're looking at him. They're looking at him like all he wants is fame. He just wants a story out of this. So it took a while for these people to warm up to this guy, And I'm like, I'd be scared to death to be out there right now because they'd shoot you and bury you, and nobody'd ever know where you were, man.
Oh, exactly. Yes. Well, I ain't doing that now.
I mean, there's an awful lot of blank space in West Virginia, and Tennessee and stuff like that. So
Kentucky.
Yeah. So there's lots of content that's out there, but the problem is that when you get into some of them, you realize that there's a lot of misfortune that's happened in them, and then that turns me off of them immediately.
Yeah,
I'm like, I no longer, I like how this whole entire thing was pitched, but now that I realize that now I got to highlight all these people suffering, I don't necessarily want to do this story no more.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a bummer. You got to drop it because you're 8 or 10 hours into the discovery and getting all those facts and information and all that research together and stuff like that. And then sometimes you just got to be like, no, I got to back away from it. I always try, since I've been in a paranormal, attention, money. I don't do these events in the paranormal because of money. I don't do them for attention. I do it because I enjoy doing it. And I do like the camaraderie, and I do like the networking and all the friends that come along with it. It's a fantastic community of individuals. But I've always tried to be on the up and up in the honest side of things. So people would see me as just that. This is just what you have. He's not doing this for money, or, he's not doing it for the attention or the social media or whatever the case is. That being said, I mean, there's just everybody's doing the paranormal, and I no longer feel like I want to spend hours and hours of time and lots of money into investigations and things. For personally, yes.
Yes, exactly. But Jason, you need to keep me updated.
This is just tough.
Yeah, you need to keep me updated.
Absolutely.
on everything you do. Send it to me. Even if I can't come, share it on my social media. I will share it. Of course you will.
Absolutely. I know you will. And I do appreciate your support. You've been very, very awesome for as long as we've been talking.
I just enjoy you. You're a great guy.
I love being on your show. Thank you very much. Seriously. And I love listening to your shows too, and all your other guests.
Thank you.
So seriously, you have some amazing people on there. So keep up the good work.
Keep me updated so you can come back on Twilight Tonic Paranormal Podcast and we can hear what you're doing. And thank you so much.
Anytime you want me.
Yes, you know I will. Keep me updated. And Jason, it's been awesome talking to you. I really enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Come see me.
All right. Sounds great. We'll do that.
All right. You take care. Thank you so much. Good
night.
You
too,
everyone.
Dee. Good night.
Bye. Be safe.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.